Welcome to the Explainer. Okay, let's dive straight into the high-stakes, hyper-competitive world of household care. Look, we live in an era where consumers absolutely demand genuinely green products, but savvy regulators and watchdogs, well, they demand absolute proof. We're operating in a landscape where simply calling your product natural isn't just cutting it anymore. Honestly, it's incredibly risky. So today, we are mapping out exactly how brands can back up those eco-friendly claims with bulletproof credibility. Think about the last time you walked down the cleaning aisle at your local grocery store. It is literally overflowing with green bottles, pictures of leaves, and all those earthy buzzwords. So we've got to start by asking the most critical question for R&D teams and brand owners today. In an absolute sea of green marketing, how does your product actually stand out? How do you prove that your environmental promise is real and not just a really clever packaging design? Because here's the reality. If you're just slapping your own homemade eco-friendly badge on a bottle, you are leaving your brand incredibly vulnerable to the most dangerous accusation out there right now, greenwashing. Making self-declared or unsubstantiated claims isn't just a PR nightmare anymore. In today's highly sensitized regulatory environment, it can lead to devastating fines, massive class action lawsuits, and a complete irreversible loss of consumer trust. Basically, you just can't afford to grade your own homework anymore. All right, so here is our game plan for today to secure that unshakable trust. We're going to look at the greenwashing challenge, meet the Ecocert's Ecodetergent standard, talk about choosing your label level, walk through the certification process, tackle those formulation hurdles, and finally, look at the business payoff. Starting right off with part 1, the greenwashing challenge and the risk of self-declared claims. To really understand the solution here, we first need to recognize exactly why modern consumers immediately doubt a simple organic sticker on a plastic bottle. The absolute core pain point the industry is facing right now is this. Without third-party proof, your latest green innovation is honestly just marketing noise. I mean, anyone can hire a graphic designer to make a nice leafy logo, right? But informed consumers and, more importantly, major retailers are looking right past that packaging. They are actively hunting for verifiable, objective evidence. When an eco-claim comes solely from the company trying to sell the product, that inherent conflict of interest automatically triggers skepticism. Which brings us to part 2, meet Ecocert Ecodetergents, the ultimate proof of sustainability. This right here is the gold standard for household care products, and today we're focusing specifically on version 6.3 of their highly rigorous framework. Now, the absolutely crucial point to remember is that Ecocert complies with ISO 14024. Why does that actually matter to you? Well, because it means it's a multi-criteria environmental label. The auditors aren't just checking off one isolated thing like, oh, is the bottle recyclable? No, they are evaluating the entire life cycle of the product. Because it's verified by an independent third party, this certification acts as an impenetrable shield against greenwashing. It takes the heavy burden of proof completely off your marketing team's shoulders and puts it onto a trusted global system. So when a consumer picks up your certified laundry detergent, they're actually getting 4 massive guarantees. It is way bigger than just what's sloshing around inside the bottle. This label guarantees environmentally friendly production facilities, the responsible management of natural resources, the aggressive promotion of natural ingredients, and the strict prohibition of most petrochemicals. It's a true 360-degree holistic approach to sustainability. Moving on to part 3. Choosing your label level and aligning your formulation with your market strategy. This is a pivotal strategic choice you have to make right at the drawing board because eco-detergents is definitely not a one-size-fits-all standard. You essentially have 2 distinct tiers to choose from here. The baseline eco-detergents label is a fantastic accessible entry point. It allows for a maximum of 5% synthetic ingredients, but keep in mind those synthetics have to come from a very restrictive, pre-approved list. On the flip side, the second tier, Eco-detergents made with organic, is your premium option. Now, neither tier tolerates misleading environmental claims, but the formulation math and the market prestige you get are quite different depending on the path you choose. Let's break down the math for that premium tier. To qualify for the Made with Organic label, an absolute minimum of 95% of your ingredients must be of natural origin. We're talking ingredients directly derived from nature, like plants or minerals, even if they've undergone some approved processing. Hitting that 95% mark requires a massive commitment from your supply chain to make sure almost everything going into the vat comes straight from the earth. And here is the real kicker. Inside that formula, a minimum of 10% of the total ingredients in the finished product must be strictly organic. Now, that's different from just natural origin. This means ingredients farmed organically, entirely without synthetic pesticides or fertilizers. That 10% organic requirement is the high bar separating the premium tier from the standard tier. It is a tough hurdle for sure, but man, it unlocks incredibly strong positioning for markets that demand verified organic commitments. All right, part 4, the certification process. This is your operational roadmap. Now that you know the tiers, let's look at the operational reality of actually getting this prestigious label onto your packaging. From the outside, it can look like an endless maze of red tape, but it's actually a very logical sequence. It breaks down into a clear 6-step journey. First, you rigorously assess the gap between your current formula and the standard. Next, and this is the hard part, you reformulate to replace any banned items. Then, you build a comprehensive technical dossier, which is basically a meticulous paper trail tracking all your ingredient origins. You submit that to Ecocert for a strict audit. Once you pass, you get your label rights, and finally, you maintain those rights through ongoing periodic reviews to ensure you stay compliant. Which leads us perfectly into part 5, overcoming formulation hurdles. It's time for an R&D reality check. We have to be brutally honest here. Step 2 of that process, the reformulation phase, is easily the hardest part. R&D managers know the true pain here. You have to completely overhaul the formula to make it green, but you can't lose a single ounce of the cleaning power your consumers expect. The toughest hurdle by far is completely eliminating petrochemicals. For decades, the cleaning industry has relied on really cheap, synthetic surfactants to cut grease and make suds. Ripping those out and replacing them with natural origin alternatives that actually work, that is a massive technical balancing act. Add in the fact that all synthetic scents are totally banned, meaning you can only use Ecocert-approved natural raw fragrances, and you've got a true R&D puzzle that can easily stall a product launch for months. This is exactly why going it alone can be a hugely costly mistake for a brand. Trying to just guess what's going to pass an audit leads to endless, frustrating trial and error in the lab. Providing specialized training for your marketing team and bringing in formula optimization consulting for your R&D folks are absolute game changers. Expert guidance shrinks that timeline down and makes sure your massive technical dossier isn't rejected on a silly technicality when you finally submit it. And this is where leveraging experienced regional consultants is just invaluable. Partners like STCVN, ISC Global, and Duke Long, who actively represent and help brands out in regions like Vietnam, can literally turn a massive formulation headache into a totally streamlined launch. They already know the Ecocert database of approved raw materials inside and out. They can point your R&D team straight to the right ingredients on day 1, saving you months of expensive trial and error. Finally, part 6, the business payoff. Let's talk about why this rigorous process is actually worth all that effort. We've talked a lot about the strict rules and the undeniable R&D headaches, so let's look at how conquering this standard translates into very real, tangible business rewards. The big takeaway from this explainer is that this certification is not just some boring compliance check. It is a major strategic business upgrade. Think of it as your golden ticket to global export, especially into the highly regulated EU market, where buyers demand verified sustainability. It justifies premium pricing, widening those profit margins. But most importantly, it establishes unshakable trust with everyday consumers and major retail distributors. You aren't just saying you're green anymore, you have the world's leading standard proving it for you. So I want to leave you with this final thought to maybe spark some conversation at your next big brand strategy or R&D meeting. In a market that is demanding absolute transparency, is your product ready to genuinely prove its green promise to the world? Or are you still just hoping the consumer takes your word for it?